Blog Talk Radio.
Hi everyone, this is Camille from sunny California, and you're listening to the Coffee Chat with Camille show, which is the podcast series that interviews various guests about real-life topics for people who love to learn.
Hey everybody, we have another great show for the week. It is Why I'm Such a Foot Nerd, From Chronic Pain to Barefoot Hiker with Gregory Stern. Excuse me, I'm just having a little tea this morning. A little bit about Gregory. He is a Chief Foot Officer owner of From the Ground Up Physiotherapy. My name is Greg Stern, and I'm the owner of From the Ground Up Physiotherapy. I help people get to the root cause of their pain by teaching people to move their entire body in new ways to wake up dormant muscles and movement patterns. Rather than solely focusing on the site of pain, I teach the body to work and give the site of pain a chance to recover, as it now can work together with the body rather than against it. With From the Ground Up, my chief mission is to help guide people through their own path of self-discovery on their health journeys and guide people to not only be pain-free, but to thrive in their everyday lives. I help people see injuries are not only a process of recovery, discovery, an opportunity to learn, be curious, better understand how to correct issues, improve efficiency and performance, and tap into potential you never knew you had. Okay, and let me see. I don't see a link here for you, the audience, but if there is one, then I will go back in the show description and add it so that you can contact Gregory. But let's go ahead and welcome Gregory into the studio. Let's see. Hi, Gregory.
How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So we're going to get into the interview so that we can let our audience, our listeners, know a lot more about you. Okay?
Absolutely.
So, why do you insist your clients go barefoot?
Yeah, so that's we're living in a planet where we unfortunately believe that what we were born with is not enough. And I mean that in the sense that when we look at the shoes that we wear today, we see very fancy technology, gel shock this and cushion that and motion control and stability. But unfortunately, all these technologies, despite their efforts, are actually not helping people with foot pain the way that they have been espoused to. And when we look at how feet work, there's 26 bones in each foot. There's 33 joints. It's a very complicated structure that's meant to support itself. And coming from a long history of chronic pain in my own feet, what I discovered is that the shoes that we wear don't permit our feet to move the way that they're supposed to. So imagine you just broke your arm and you're in a cast for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden, you're out of the cast for. Are you going to expect your arm to be flexible or very rigid? And the answer is rigid, and that's kind of what's happening on our shoe from the standpoint of the shoes we're wearing. Kind of act like casts on our feet and don't permit the natural mobility that's supposed to take place in our feet, and that causes a lot of problems within our feet and upstream as well.
Oh, that's something. Thank you. It's very interesting. And then What do you mean that a physio is not going to fix you?
Yeah, so I guess, coming along the lines of, imagine you're in pain and you're seeking out help from a physical therapist. Oftentimes we believe that the onus of responsibility is on the therapist to fix me. Like I go in and I'm supposed to lie on the table and receive passive treatment. And while that does sound nice in theory that someone else is going to just like magically, fix your problems, the problem is that if we just focus on the site of pain, so imagine someone comes in with knee pain, and we're only focusing on the knee and not how the knee relates to the foot, the ankle, the hip, and how the whole system works together. Well, when we do all that hands-on therapy, it might feel good and you might feel temporary pain relief, but the moment that you stand up, you go back to the same movement patterns that got you into trouble in the first place. And so this notion of like this unidirectional, the physio is there to be a fixer with their hands. Well, actually, physios should be guides. They should guide you along a process of teaching you how to use your body, upright against gravity, so that you learn how to coordinate your body to move well in space, and therefore everything is kind of connected and working together, so nothing is being overloaded.
Excellent, excellent. Yes, excellent. Now, why do you say going to physio is not about lying limp like a limp fish?
Yeah, so that's like expanding on my previous point. I think that it's really important that we understand that like we're, as a patient or as a client receiving treatment, ideally you need to be taking an active ownership in that process. So going along the same lines that the physio is not there to fix you, well, ideally the professional that you're working with is empowering you with tools and exercises to learn how to work, with the whole body rather than, you lying passively and just receiving treatment.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, 1 second. All right. And so then our next question is, what role does victim mentality play in recovery?
Well, I think it comes along the line of that if we don't understand that, like, the victim believes that there's no ownership in the process, and someone who believes that there's no hope and is basically relying on that person to be their fixer, that doesn't ultimately lead to, profound changes that I get with my clients, which is I've had people with years and years of chronic pain get back to doing the things they love. And in my office, in my clinic, I'm really kind of helping people reframe their injuries in a new way and see this weakness as potential, and to see that, like, very quickly, if I put them in a new position and their body all of a sudden feels this new load on their body, well, that's very good. That's just something new, a new input for the system, for their nervous system. So the whole idea being that, like, we should be empowering and guiding people that are in pain through a process where slowly but surely, we're progressively overloading their body in new ways to gain new mobility and strength for their body to work more efficiently.
That's wonderful. And then why do you insist that your clients slouch when everyone says to stand up straight?
Yeah, so that is a very interesting question. And I think the fact that, we've probably all heard sit up straight, stand up straight, chest up, shoulders down and back is good posture, right? Mom, dad, teachers, society, everyone's telling us that we need to be in good posture, and that means to be like a soldier. But if we think about that for a second, think about a fighter in a boxing arena. Is he or she carrying himself in this very upright, good posture, or is his spine more relaxed and more fluid and more, kind of shoulders forward and rib cage down, not very intense in the way that he's holding himself? Because when we hold ourselves in these very intense manners, we're creating a lot of rigidity. And I guess kind of the best way of explaining this is having someone, whoever is listening right now, to take your hands and squeeze them together as hard as you can. So you squeeze your hands. Now, after about 10 seconds, you're probably going to feel like some tension in your hands build up naturally. Now, if I asked you to do that for the next 12 hours, you'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. Well, when we sit up straight with good posture, quote unquote, what we're doing to our low back muscles is we're squeezing the low back and we're engaging them. We just engage our hands. And actually, if we think about many cultures around the world, for example, I visited India 10 years ago. I saw 80-year-olds that were able to do a very deep squat. You know, that's the natural way we're supposed to go to the washroom. It's the natural resting position of the body. And we'll see a spine shape that's a lot more rounded and relaxed and slouchy rather than very upright. And so when we go into these upright postures, that goes against the natural resting posture of a deep squat. So when we're sitting in a chair, we should actually be sitting in a deep squat position to facilitate a relaxed muscles of the back rather than engaging them 24/7.
Wow. Thank you. I love the analogy. What inspired you to do this work?
So I got into this work 10 years ago when I hurt my ankle myself playing flag football. That was just an innocent ankle sprain that just never healed properly. Up until that point, I was always injuring myself, playing lots of sports and broken bones and stitches here. But this injury was different because it was just a classic ankle sprain that just never healed properly. And I tried everything under the sun. I was going to physio. I was doing athletic therapy. I was trying orthopedic shoes, orthotics, osteo. I was going from professional to professional, trying to figure out a solution to my problem. And it was really only until I started to take a deep dive into my own body to understand what was going on did I start to make progress. So eventually, having gone to physical therapy school myself, I was learning the exact same thing in school that I was being given as a treatment, which was this very isolated, passive approach that I was mentioning earlier on about just receiving treatment or very isolated banded exercises for my feet and nothing really holistic in nature that was connecting my body to work better. And as I started to look into the Ethernet and see, all right, who's the smartest people talking about feet and how are they thinking differently about it? Did I start to really make profound progress to the point where, I couldn't stand barefoot for more than a few seconds without pain. And now I'm, barefoot 24/7 in my clinic. I go hiking barefoot. I could slackline. I do lots of very cool things. And that was from taking a very different approach than what was being offered.
Oh, that's totally amazing. Then you mentioned that our physical health starts at the feet. Why is that?
Well, just think about a building for a second and how important it is to make sure that you're building a building on a strong foundation. Well, naturally, our feet are the only thing that are connected to the ground. We're no longer crawling or walking on all fours like our ancestors. And so our feet have to be strong. They have to be mobile. They have to be supple. They have to be able to, support our weight, to be able to walk, to run. Like, these are all things we evolved to do. And, unfortunately, many people have foot pain, and that's like a bird having an injured wing from flying. And it doesn't really make sense, the incongruency between how many people are hurting their feet versus, what we're just naturally evolved to do. And a huge part of that has to do with the footwear that we're putting on our feet are very unnatural for our body.
Okay, thank you. And then what do freedom and movement have to do with each other?
Well, I think that having a mindset of exploring your body tends to lead to a life where you want to feel more out in nature and moving in very different ways than going to a gym and running on a treadmill and being very stiff and rigid and, performing these very robotic movements. And I think that when you start to flip the coin and look at how our bodies are meant to rotate and move in more natural ways, that's going to have you seeking out activities that are different and taking you more outside into nature and being more free in that way.
Okay. And then what are the main reasons why so many people are dealing with chronic aches and pains?
Well, part of that, as we mentioned, has to do with the fact that we're all ingrained to believe that we need to be sitting up straight all the time, and so our backs are always tense. We go to the gym then after a whole day of sitting and be very intense on a body that got very good at sitting for the last 12 hours. And then when we put on these shoes on our feet that are very tapered in at the toe box, that don't move very well, that are rigid, that block the foot from moving and block us from feeling the ground well, now our backs are stiff, our feet don't feel well, and then we go and we try solutions of trying to get fit that are very intense on a body that's just not used to it. And, then the solutions that are offered are very quick fix in nature that don't really get to the root cause of the problem because they're just trying to kill the pain. We're running around in circles, all being very stiff and then trying very, isolated ways to fix that stiffness.
Yes. And then for our last question, what role does the rib cage play with lower body and upper body pains?
Well, the ribs are located, obviously between our shoulders and our hips. And so when we don't think of our rib cage as a mobile area or that's supposed to move very much, we tend to have a lot of problems. And, just think about when we're breathing, a lot of times people have heard I should belly breathe. And they've been told that by their yoga teachers. But in fact, our lungs are located in our rib cage, and our ribs are supposed to expand as we inhale and depress and come in as we exhale. But a lot of people don't have ribs that move very well, and so if our ribs are kind of stuck in the middle between the hips and the shoulders, then that area gets restricted, and the whole body's connected. When I'm moving and walking in life, I should have a rib cage that kind of moves like a dog, like a spine, like an S that's like fluid and rhythmical. But again, most people are just very very stiff in these regions, and so it impacts the rest of the system.
Absolutely wonderful, great, informative information for our listeners. I thank you so very much, Gregory, for being here, or Greg for being here. I did have a question. What is your favorite coffee and or hot beverage?
I'm a big mushroom coffee guy, so I like the full Sigmatic, and that's pretty solid. Espressos, cappuccinos. I'm a big coffee fan overall.
Wonderful. Thank you. And then can you please let our listeners, our audience know what your social media handles are? And also, there was a little pause, if you noticed, when I come back to you, because I was adding in your, what is it called? Like for the audience, I put in the contact, like email address, or not email, website address. I apologize. Yeah, no. I was plugging that in. But could you please just leave your social media handles with the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So people could look me up at Ground Up Physio. So Ground Up and then Physio is PHYSIO, and I'm located on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. And I also, I have an online mobility program as well. So if people are kind of resonating with what I'm saying and they're, feeling like they're too old in their body and want to feel more athletic and springy again, I have an online mobility program that teaches the exact same exercises that I teach my one-on-one clients here in my clinic in Montreal, that people can do at their own pace. And there's also a community group, and it's suitable for beginner or advanced and can be done in the comfort of their own home. So I suggest that people, you could find those links through all my socials. So if you go to Instagram and you look at the link in the bio, you'll find the program there.
Our Chief Foot Officer, owner of From the Ground Up Physiotherapy. Thank you so much, Gregory Stern, for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, everyone. So that was the amazing Gregory Stern, or Greg Stern. And again, he's the owner of the Ground Up Physiotherapy. He goes into detail and is quite knowledgeable about our foot health, right? And so let's do this. Let me go ahead and, since I did put the link inside of the description, it is rebuild, okay, .groundupphysio.com. Okay, so ground, GROUND, UPPHYSIO.com. So rebuild groundupphysio.com. All right, and then he just mentioned that he does have an online program too. Okay, so check him out. He is amazing. I want to thank you all for being our listeners. Thank you so much, Greg, for being here. You are just delightful and very refreshing. I never heard so much incredible information about our feet, the impact on our, feet, our bodies, and the whole posture. Like my whole life, I was told to sit up straight, especially in ballet class. So I do thank you so very much for gracing our studio. And thank you all again for listening. Again, I forgot before I close. I always forget. Why would I not do a shout out to my own website, right? CoffeeChatWithCamille.com is where you can find a copy of this episode. I did want to say I had on an amazing guest yesterday, but the studio was having issues, and I saw like the little disclaimer at the top, and I was just like, it said our engineers are working to get your sound going or something like that. Well, I didn't pay any attention because everything else looked like it does right now, and not too much since they said they're working on it. Then I go to listen to our episode recorded yesterday, and oh my goodness, it was just like nothing there. And it was really just like the opening, like blog talk radio, like what you guys say in the beginning. And then after that, it was just some little commercial that had nothing to do with the episode. So I had to re-invite my magnificent guest back on and explain the oops moment we had, So luckily he just said, ha, 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 he was laughing. But it was like, these things happen, folks. So I'm going to make sure I always check and make sure the episodes are there, which they generally are. But something was going on with the studio yesterday that was out of my hands. But today, I believe we're okay, right? So anyway, everyone enjoy yourself out there. Be safe. Tell those closest to you that you love them, care for them. And also, let's not be too hard on each other. All right? Again, the name of this magnificent episode was Why I'm Such a Foot Nerd, From Chronic Pain to Barefoot Hiker with Gregory Stern. Okay? Again, you can find a copy of the show at coffeechatwithcamille.com. All right? Oh, and also on any of the streaming platforms, okay? I don't have that open exactly which ones they are, but the popular ones like Apple and Spotify. And if they're not uploading and all that, then I have to talk to tech people and get all the other episodes I have up, right? But so far so good. And again, I thank you so very much for listening to our amazing episode with Greg Stern or Gregory Stern. Bye for now, everyone.